in his house in Relie. Dead Cthulhu waits streaming.
You ever played D&D before?
No.
What kind of character do you play?
I play a cultist.
But you are a cultist.
I'm growing gills. Gills! My transformation into a deep one has finally begun. Father Dagon be praised.
Rob, we don't see any gills.
The coffee-drinking cultists who meet under the pavilion. I can bring them to you.
Did you not bring them to me within 3 days? Then you're back on the menu. Got it?
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
It's the cultists of the Yellow King. We're being infiltrated.
I need to spell kill Steve.
That escalated.
Kill, kill, kill! What happened? They'll fall fast asleep, and I'll take them to the cult of Shub.
Were you trying to slip us a Mickey?
As soon as I learn this spell, you are done for.
It's like Twilight, but with a fish.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, I'm going to close this door over here because I got sunlight coming through here this morning. Seasons are changing, I suppose. How is everybody doing this morning? I've got my Fish Do Not Drink Tea mug again this morning. So hopefully you have an enjoyable beverage this morning, whether that's coffee or tea. Whatever you like to have, we can talk a bit about tabletop games and fantasy before we start going with being productive for the rest of the day. And I'm really going to try to get a lot of work done today and tomorrow because I just haven't been productive. But I have been trying to start walking and doing practice hikes because I would like to be able to go and hike and go on adventures. And so I have been getting a pack together. I posted out on Instagram, which I hadn't really done in a while, about going on a practice 3-mile hike yesterday. So I'm going to do that again today. All right, Inner Lights here, heading into work, but thank you so much for being here. Yep, I will see you on the flip side. I hope it's a good day at work, going and being productive already this morning. So let's go and make that money. I was trying to get a secondary camera set up. This is what I was working on here. I knew it was kind of ambitious to get that done between now and between last night, because we did the streams last night and this morning. But I did try because I really got those books over there that I'd like to be able to look at. But it ended up being software compatibility. I've got to run that secondary camera through some software, and I'm using that software to run this camera over here. So I will still keep going with that. All right. So first of all, I suppose I should give you the Ritual on GameFound. Ritual is the game that we have been creating to go with the cultists. I'm going to drop the link to that in the chat right now. That is over on GameFound. That's the page, the pre-campaign page. So you can go over there and follow the campaign. I'm going to start updating that next week. I tried to start that this week, but like I said, I've been trying to force through here and get productive. Also, remember to drink water. Got coffee and water. So that is where Ritual is. I'm going to play the trailer for that here in a second. But if you want to sign up and be a playtester, I'm going to be sending out the advanced copy of the rules. There have already been 2 rounds of playtesting. There have been 2 groups of people who have already gotten the rules. There's going to be a third before the game actually begins on GameFound. So if you would like to sign up to be a playtester, then it's right there. Yeah, I don't have Ritual brand water, but this is the stainless steel container for hiking. Hey, it does make drinking water a bit more fun. So however you got to do it to make it fun for you, I should be drinking more water. Maybe you should too. So I do want to show, so I will show you the trailer that I put together for Ritual. Let me go over here. Ritual, I believe this is the trailer. Yep. Well, I tell you what, here's the playtester. If you want to be a playtester, this is about playtesting. So I just put the playtest link in the chat. So here is playtesting ritual. Do you want to get involved with the playtest and development of the new Cthulhu Cultist Party game? We're looking for people who want to join us right now.
Mike says community is really important.
Whether you have a gaming group ready to playtest, or if you just have an analytical mind and a knack for game rules, just click the link below and submit your name through the form.
Welcome. We have donuts. Wait, what's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
The advanced draft of the rules will be sent out soon and will include instructions for how to play with a deck of cards, some dice, and a couple of other items around the house. That means there won't be a need for endless printing and cutting in order to have a print and play prototype ready.
So do I get to cast spells?
Yes, you're a wizard.
Ritual will be coming to GameFound, and you can also check out the GameFound page for more information about the game and a brief rundown on how to play. Hundreds of gamers are already following the game on GameFound, and we're excited to get it produced. So click the link below to get involved. We'll set up an online hangout where playtesters and rules reviewers can discuss the game together and make it as great as it can be. We can all let our inner cultist out together.
We're the cultists.
So that is the playtest that we have going on and we're taking signups for. So I'm really hoping that we're able to do that in a big way, that we are able to get a lot of people for the playtest and then for the game, so that we can not only get the game produced, but we can get the Cultist miniatures produced, and then we can go on, we can do the Cultists Season 3 if we raise enough money, and then maybe also continue with some dinner and a board game, and do some other shows and other things that we are trying to create here on the channel and at Ravenkeep. So hopefully that'll be a big thing. I've been advertising out on Facebook. By the way, so there is a Ravenkeep Facebook page. We're streaming to there as well. I've been putting stuff out about Ritual there. So that's what's going on there. Matt's here. Matt says, good morning. Good morning, Matt. Perfect timing. We are about to jump in and start taking a look at a game. Because I still am working on getting that secondary camera set up, I thought that we should take a look at this game right here. And I've had this one for a while. Has anyone played this one? The Basic Fantasy Roleplaying Game, and I've got the 3rd edition here. And I wanted to, I remember getting this because I was interested in kind of stripped down gaming. Because, well, we talked about simplification, but then we also talked, we've talked about simplification. Another thing I was interested in was kind of getting back to basics. And actually, I think that 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons did that reasonably well. I've enjoyed 5th edition. There were some things that I don't like about it. But I think this is one of the games that kind of was trying to be a bit retro in its design. A lot of people took the D20 system and then were trying to get back to more old school types of Dungeons and Dragons feel. And so this is one of the ones that I see around, the Basic Fantasy Role-Playing Game. And I wondered if there's anything that we could use in order to, well, we could look at it from the perspective of how is it, but then also how could we adjust it, or if there's anything we could borrow from it. Or actually, I was also wondering if this would be a good one to pick up and go and play an adventure game with the nephews with, because I played Dungeons and Dragons with my oldest nephew, or one of my oldest nephews, and I tried to get straight to the adventure. Now, of course, we didn't do character creation, and it seems like when we're doing these reviews and we're trying to do it in basically an hour, taking a look at something, I think that we should take a look at creating characters kind of last. We might skip by it just to see what the character abilities are, but then we've got spells really getting into the adventure, I think, and then encounters and combat, and try to figure out exactly how to play this game. Then we can come back and look at character creation, because playing the game is what I personally am most concerned about. So that's going to start on page 36. But let's just take a look at page 4 for just the abilities so we can see how this goes. I do like the font and all that. It gives you the old school feel. Oh, and I did like this about this game. I really like characters that can fit on half a sheet of paper. You know, I used to like, and I still do for the more detailed games, like a character folio. You know, that's pretty cool when you've got several pages that, you know, are folded together, and we got, you know, room for backstory and maps and things like that. So character folios are pretty cool, except for I think they're kind of not necessary. If we're trying to limit the amount of time it takes to create characters, then I think that, yeah, a half page like this, if you constrain the amount of stuff that you have to write down, you're constraining the amount of time it's going to take in order to create characters. And so I think this is a good size. It also prevents stuff from being all over the table. I played games where we're all using laptops. I've also played games where we forbid technology to be at the table. So if you're playing without technology, well, actually, you know, the technology can sometimes take up a good amount of room on the table. If everybody's got their laptops out, power cables and all of that, it can be a lot. But if we just have this, then I mean, I think that should be all you need. That would be my goal. If I were also creating our adjustment to fate or whatever it is that we do, I would like for the character to be able to fit on half a piece of paper, just like this. So you have just the essential information here. So we're using strength, initiative, strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. We got armor class, hit points, base attack bonus. We do have a list of equipment that we had to go and get. And then we have, we got the saving throws. We're back to the classic saving throws. Death, poison, wands, paralysis, stone, dragon's breath, and spells. Everything you need. And also, you know, I feel like in a game like this, if the character dies, you shouldn't be too worried about it. This feels like the kind of game that I would want to use, this kind of game system. If we're going to be doing a dungeon crawl, a bug hunt, as some people call it, if we're going to be doing a dungeon crawl, I want to be able to create the character fast. The adventure is about going in and crawling through this dungeon. And if you die, well, you haven't invested, you know, 2 hours trying to make this character and written an advanced backstory for it. Hey, you may even be able to start a new character in the middle of the game. So I'm for that kind of thing. So, okay. Oh, and then the saving throws right here. I wonder how we generate those. But this is, there is something delightfully old school here. I like it when categories of things, I think it's funny when categories of things are rather arbitrary, right? And this is definitely an arbitrary list. You can tell that this is, you know, deliberately old school, but when you're looking at a kind of old school game here, are these good categories? This is why I actually wouldn't do something like this in a game that I were creating, because these are so arbitrary. Saving throw versus death. And for some reason, saving death versus poison, that's the same thing. That goes in one category. Saving throws against wands right here, and saving throws against spells. Those are different. So what actually is it that makes saving against somebody who's using a wand against you different from a spell? But hey, what if a spell turns you into stone or otherwise paralyzes you or something? And then also you have the idea that, well, dragon's breath is also a saving throw because, hey, fighting dragons is something that we do, right? So we include those categories. So that is, I mean, of course, it's old school. This is actually something that I would try to fix, though. As delightfully arbitrary as those categories are, that's something that you have to go and look back at and look up every time. You're not saying, oh, we got to save here, so it's all going to be, you know, I don't know what type of resistance roll that you're going to make, and you're going to modify it based on the level of the character that's attacking you or something like that. So you got a standard rule. You don't have a standard rule here. You have a very arbitrary list of categories that you've got to reference every time. But at least on this case, there's not a whole lot of space, not a whole lot else on the character sheet, so you can probably find it very interesting very quickly. And, you know, there aren't that many stats either. I mean, there's even an equipment list on this very small piece of paper. And then this arbitrary list of saving throws, stats, and basic stats, and then your hit points. Okay. So I guess that with that sample character, that really tells us what we need to know in order to make this. And I'm guessing this is rolling over as well. I noticed that we do have bonuses and penalties over here associated with the ability scores, but then I'm guessing this is your roll over number. So we do, again, this is one of those things that is delightfully old school because we have different methods of adjudicating and rolling these dice. It looks like this, if you're doing a test over here, you're rolling something and then modifying that roll with all of our flaws and problems with the D20 that we have been over in many other videos. So, but we're bringing this over warts and all, looks like, right? We're embracing it for this kind of game. And then we have a completely different way to do saving throws over here. All right, so let's not go through a whole bunch of character creation. That's what characters are. And let's get into how would we actually play. Oh, we're already doing something with siege engines here. Spells. So is this our spell list right here? It looks like we have rather abbreviated spell lists, which is good, I think, for something like this. I can definitely see using this, I think, as a dungeon crawl. Hey, come in here. I would want to generate some characters. I wish we had more, and maybe they're in the back or something like that. But again, I'm not, I don't have any kind of problem with pre-generated characters. This seems like just the kind of game where you should have a stack of pre-generated characters and everybody can just grab one and we can go on an adventure. So we are looking at these spell lists. Second level magic user spells. Okay. So there, okay, so I guess it's not really that abbreviated. I mean, it's much more abbreviated than what's in 5th edition. But we got 12 first level magic user spells. We say magic user here because I guess we're going general here. With basic fantasy, we're not doing too much, I guess, beyond differentiating between clerics and magic users and other kinds of arcane magic users, which also seems like a very classic thing to do when you're trying to simplify here. We've seen several different examples of that in the kinds of games that we have looked at so far. Okay, all spells in alphabetical order. All right, let's not go through all of that. We want to get into how to play. Wasn't it like page 36 or something like that? The adventure. Okay. So what are we concerned about if we are actually going into, a dungeon adventure? Kind of like, yes, we should, I feel like this is ideal for. They've done a good job capturing that feel about what exactly I should be doing with this game. So we are concerned with carrying capacity. Oh, that's really something that we should take a look at because I've been trying to figure out what are the best ways to do carrying capacity. I've looked at a couple of different ways, or more than that, because encumbrance is one of those things that gets talked about a lot. And I think you need it, especially in something like a dungeon crawling game like this, where you've got to worry about, I mean, what are you trying to do with encumbrance? You're trying to limit the amount of supplies you can take into the dungeon. So encumbrance should do that. It's also limiting what you can take out of the dungeon. And maybe that's less important in something like a one-shot. Either you get to the dragon horde and you are able to, you defeat the dragon and then you have the dragon horde. And then we're not too worried about how you get out with it. There's plenty of time to get out with the, go back multiple times or whatever you got to do, I suppose, to get the treasure out. But primarily, you're constraining what you have with you in order to solve the problem and complete the adventure. Because if you're looking at this like, okay, this is the obstacle that I've got to overcome, and then what can I have with me in order to do it? I've got to not only manage my hit points, the hit point management is the big part of this. You got to complete this adventure before you run out of hit points or without running out of hit points. But then I also have to manage whatever other kind of equipment it is that has got to be with you. So I think it's an important part of it, but I am not big at all on trying to manage things ounce by ounce or pound by pound. I haven't found that works very well. First of all, people don't do it at the table, and second of all, it's time consuming to do. So we need systems, I think, which which limit your ability to take resources with you along on the adventure in order to complete the task, but one that doesn't overload the game. And I have seen graphical representations of encumbrance. So actually, that's a great topic. We should talk about different encumbrance systems in one of these live streams. And when I see these graphical encumbrance systems, one of the things that I think about is Diablo. We were talking about that last night on the live stream playing Diablo. Its encumbrance there is really governed by that grid that you can actually see what's in the backpack, and then you have a representation of your armor or the sword or things like that, and then you put it into the backpack. I think that's pretty cool. I would kind of like to have something like that, at the table. The downside to that is you've got to have representations, like physical representations of all of those things at the table, and that's probably not practical to do at all. And it would be very finicky and fiddly. So it seems like a good idea, but I actually don't think that it would actually work all that well in practice. But there are other kinds of graphical systems or non-graphical systems that still just use a slot-based mechanic. I see a lot of things using a slot-based mechanic that, you get 10 slots or something, and your armor takes up 2, a weapon takes up 1, et cetera, et cetera. That seems like those systems seem to be like the best kind of compromise systems to me. It also helps you focus on what is important. And we talked about that in, I guess, the conversations about Fate, where we were talking about situational aspects and other things, that you're trying to focus all of the players on what is important in this game. Some people will say, I want them to have to find out what's important. And I understand why people are saying that. For some, immersion in role-playing, you've really got to explore this world. But my philosophy now, and the kinds of games that I'm playing, are, well, I don't want the players to have to try to figure out what's important. Here are the things that are important. Figure out why they are important, how they are important, and then what to go and do with them. And so if you have a slot-based kind of system like that, where you are simplifying your encumbrance, you are also telling people what is important. Like, is everything I come across, like I was saying, I get lists of things in Dungeons and Dragons, like, you're typing down, what did we find? Let's type all of this down. And then you've got in your backpack list, finely crafted ivory figurine, embroidered handkerchief, amulet. Okay. Electrium amulet. Okay, great. Are those things important? Because those things, they just accumulate on my character sheet. I don't remember where I got them. If you're playing once a month, 3 or 4 months ago, is this something important? Is it not something important? If you simplify encumbrance, we don't have to worry about that. That was a bit of a digression on encumbrance. I recognize that. But I think a good one. I think an important one. A very important subject. So we're kind of doing classic kind of encumbrance here. We're looking at things pound by pound. Heavily loaded mapping, light. We're concerned with light radius here and how many turns that torches burn. All right, there's a lot of things to keep track of here. Now, see, and that could be a perfectly good resource to have to manage in a dungeon. Light. I mean, it's not a bad thing to do at all. We would have to track the number of turns. But if you're telling your characters, here's something that's important. The light that you've got to manage that in this dungeon. And then, and if you run out, it's going to be a problem. So pay attention to your torches. We could come up with I think probably a simpler system here. Or maybe there's, people would use kind of like torch counters or something like that. I'm actually a bigger fan of using light in games, except for it seems like you can't do it all that often in Dungeons and Dragons because basically everything has dark vision. So it gets dark, no problem. I got dark vision. So we are going back here. to doors. We're going back to the old school method of opening doors. A stuck door can be opened on the roll of a 1 on a 1d6. Add the character's strength bonus to the range, so if the character with a bonus of +2, so that a character with a bonus of +2 can open a stuck door on a roll of 1 to 3 on a d6. Locked doors may be forced by rolling the same range, but on a 1d10. Metal bars can sometimes be bent on a roll of this range on a d20. That's, yes, very old school, because we are using 3 completely different roles and mechanics in order to open a stuck door, open a locked door, or bend metal bars. There's nothing standardized about that. There's no standard kind of action that you take. You're going to have to look this kind of thing up. Again, in a game like this, if we are embracing the old school with warts and all, then hey, no problem. Probably we got the same kind of thing over here when we're looking for secret doors. Under normal conditions, searching for secret doors takes 1 turn. 1 turn per character per 10 feet of wall searched. A search roll is found. A secret door is found on the roll of a 1d6. We're probably going to have to look this up a lot. I mean, eventually, if there's not all that much you remember, but that's more stuff that you have to remember. It was actually an advancement in gaming, and I'm not saying that this was the first time this had ever happened. But of course, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was like this. And that's kind of also why it's difficult, or would have made it difficult, to create a role-playing game. If you have to think of, okay, what is every situation that somebody could come up with in a role-playing game? And I've got to figure out how that's resolved and how that's going to be managed. Well, first of all, that's going to be a long list of things because of the open-ended nature of role-playing games. Forcing open doors and looking for secret doors, and I guess managing traps or something like here. Yeah, we got, here's our trap instance. Normal characters have a chance equal to a roll of 1 on a 1d6 to detect a trap if a search for one is made. Note that is about 16.7% chance. And then thieves have a special ability and something about dwarves as well. If you had to make this list of stuff and then you had to come up with an individual way for all of these things to be resolved, it's going to take you a long time to design the role-playing game. It's going to be an extremely big task. So if you have something like the D20 system that came along that actually systematized trying to take an action, so we're going to get rid of all of these ad hoc ways of doing all of these little things here. We combine them into, hey, if you're trying to accomplish some kind of action, you're going to roll a D20, add a modifier, and try to get over a range, some kind of target number. All of a sudden, we are simplifying what we're doing. We've simplified creating the RPG, and simultaneously, we've come up with a way to handle any type of situation that comes up. We've systematized it, which means we've simplified it. That means people actually know how to play the game. Roll the D20, add a bonus or subtract a penalty from it, and try to get over some kind of difficulty number. That's how you play that game. All the problems that we still have with the D20 are still there. But it is actually, I think, an advancement in gaming that we don't do all of this anymore. But, hey, we're intentionally trying to embrace this and love it for this game. Dungeon survival. As described in the equipment section above, normal characters must consume 1 day's worth of rations and at least 1 quart of water per day. Now, see, here is something that could also matter. Maybe we are managing light, and then we are managing rations as well. So, and in this case, not only are we're doing rations for food, and then also water. And so you've got to complete your objective without running out of hit points, without running out of light, and without running out of food, and without running out of water. Okay. Maybe those are the resources that we're going to be trying to manage for this game. That's kind of going back to what's going to matter, telling your characters what matters. Has anybody played this, by the way? Matt says, wow, you made a lot of good points for me. Well, thank you, Matt. I'm hoping that I'm glad you like it. That's what we're here for. these are the kinds of things that I think about when trying to design an RPG. Matt says that discussion on inventory was very interesting. Lots of good points. Yeah, I've got to come up with a good way to do inventory if I'm going to do a system. So yeah, that's my general thoughts, but we should definitely take a look at some new systems. There are some great systems I've been reading that can probably be adapted. I mean, even from Reddit all over the place. I need to get those together. That's a good discussion topic. Let me write that down. We need to get into inventory. Right here. So got my list of topics as things come up. So inventory. I was talking about food here, and that's because I was trying to, I'm harping on the idea of making sure the characters know what's important. And I think this also comes up to the idea of a role-playing game. On the freeform side of things, of course, we want to be freeform. We want a lot of different things to be able to happen. But like I said, that generates the problem that if I give you this really cool list of stuff that's in this treasure hoard or stuff you find in a desk, is anything that I found in that desk important? Of course, that makes it difficult to create the game because the game master has to come up with all the stuff that may or may not actually be important. And then the characters also have to figure out whether or not that's important. Now, I think that what's important can change between game to game. And that's as in from session to session. Because if you're going to be doing a dungeon exploration today, a certain amount of stuff may be relevant that the players need to track and they need to be able to manage. For instance, torches may be important if you are doing the dungeon crawl. If you're not doing the dungeon crawl and then we're going to do wilderness exploration the next day, or the next session, managing torches may not be a big deal. You may still need to manage food. Actually, in that case, maybe food and water is really what you need to manage, as well as your hit points. But then maybe the dungeon crawl isn't big enough that we don't have to worry about food. Maybe it is. If you're going into Undermountain or something like that, then maybe you do have to track food and water as well. But maybe it's that you got to track hit points and light while you're in the dungeon because it's going to take, inside a day worth of time in universe in order to explore this dungeon. But over here outside, you got daylight and you can create a campfire, so you don't have to worry about light, but you got to manage food and water. Those could be different sessions, different parts of different days, and the game master is telling you for this game that we are playing today, these are the things that are important and you're going to need to track. Those things can change, but they need to be relevant to the game that is being played, right? So the torches do seem very relevant to the dungeon crawl. The food seems very relevant to a wilderness adventure. And, I do have the old school books, the actual second edition books for dungeon crawl and wilderness adventures. If I could get my other camera set up, we could look at those because I got those as physical books. I suppose the point that I was trying to make, I'm wandering here, but that's okay, is that if you've told the players that this is important and you're going to need to track it and you're going to need to keep up with it in inventory and you're going to be expending it and you're going to have to use this resource, and if you run out of this resource, there's going to be a problem and you're not going to be able to accomplish your objective, or you are, it's going to be much more difficult. You're telling them, pay attention to it, and that is making it part of the game. And I'm wondering if there is a certain number of optimal things to manage, because you can't manage everything. Life is very complicated. We got to think about a lot of things that we have to manage. Money could be something that we manage, of course, in real life, but also, you only have a certain number of gold pieces. You got to find more. The gold pieces can be a resource that you can expend. We could think of lots and lots of resources that we need to track and manage in our role-playing game. But in the context of a game, sitting there at the table, trying to pack as much adventure as I possibly can into 2 to 3 hours, I think there's probably some optimal number of resources that the characters need to track for that session. Don't make them track everything. Make them track maybe 3. So if I were designing a game, I would say, all right, at any particular session, which is something like trying to accomplish one type of objective, don't try to have the players manage more than, let's say, 3 different things, because you want the players to be able to look at this, first of all, see what their resource situation is very easily. And actually, I like physical things for that. I've got someplace I've started putting together a little tackle box full of different tokens. I wonder where that is. I like, you can go to one of the meeple stores and you can get different like things that look like drops of water and drops of food. So if I know, or chunks of food, rations, like pieces of bread. If I know that, hey, I've got 3 different things I got to manage, and maybe one of those things is my hit points, or however we're tracking damage. And then I want to be able to hand out physical items, little physical tokens that say, hey, in this adventure, we're, in the, well, whatever, we're tracking food. We're tracking food and water. And I've got this time thing. Time in RPGs is another thing that we should definitely talk about, because we're going to be incrementing down time. And then after so much time increments down, you need to give me one of your resource tokens. So that's how you're tracking it. So everybody's not trying to write things down and then erase a hole in your character sheet or whatever, or try to have their computer up managing these kinds of things. Hey, you're managing 3 things. They are represented as physical tokens sitting right in front of you. So you can see exactly what your situation is. You know how many of them you've got, and we know when they have to be given up. In a zombie game, medical packs, could be really important. And ammunition could be really important. If you've got handguns, maybe those are your resources for, a zombie game. It could be food, medical packs, and ammo. And then don't worry about anything else. So I don't know that 3 is an ideal number of things to track in any particular session. But I don't think it's 5 or 8 or 10. I think we need to be to compress that for the purposes of actually running a game. Matt says, so is light used to push the heroes along on the adventure, prevent them from being too conservative? Is light used to push the heroes along in the adventure and prevent them from being too conservative? Well, it does give you the fog of war, right? So you can't see everything. So even if you are in, a 100-foot hallway, your torches only, illuminate so much. So there's a sense of horror. There's a sense of dread here. It does move them along because that is on a timer. Right. So, hey, if you run out of torches, it doesn't matter if you still have hit points. You're not going to be able to complete this adventure, or it's going to become extremely difficult if you are out of torches. So, yeah, I guess it does make you go along. Because torches would be something that would be expended even if you don't move. So even if you don't move, and you try to check things over and over and over again, and you're really conservative about your exploration, your resources are still burning down. So yeah, I guess it would do that. When I think about trying to prevent the characters from being too conservative, I often do think about things like wandering monsters. And that's for something like Hero Quest. In Hero Quest, an excellent strategy for the players is to kind of operate like a SWAT team and be very conservative with their play. And that's because there isn't ways for monsters to come into play unless the heroes open the door and actually do something. Now you can draw a wandering monster, but that's still the players doing something. When you're searching, I think that a way to move the heroes along on the adventure is have some kind of danger after them. Hey, you can't spend you can't spend 2 hours searching every room to make sure you've got every last gold piece, because you're right, you may run out of light, but then also, hey, there may be other monsters in this dungeon who are going to come by and catch you searching. You got to get in, you got to get out, which means you may have to operate in a non-optimal way, right? So what do we got here? We got wilderness movement rates, waterborne travel, becoming lost. We need some really good overland travel rules. Because travel, going places is a big part of this. That should be part of the game, I think. Mercenaries. Very old school again right here. The encounter. Oh, did we get into combat? Okay, here we are in combat. Old school initiative roll. Each round 1d6 is rolled for initiative for each character or monster. I've got a lot on initiative. There's something that's already in some videos that are here on the channel talking about different ways to do initiative. Because I just think it slows things down. Most of the time, I think most initiative systems can be replaced by just going around the table, unless you actually do something more interesting. If you roll, especially if you just roll every round like in Dungeons and Dragons, it takes so much time. Or if you don't roll every round, why are we rolling initiative at the start of combat anyway? We're just establishing a combat order, and then everybody just goes around in that combat order. Why not just go around the table? Because if you are establishing some type of combat order that is not around the table, you have to figure out who's next. If it's around the table, you know who's next. The person sitting to your left or right, whichever way you're going around the table, I guess. If it's not, we got these complex initiative trackers. We had a pretty good one when I was playing with Lou. It was, metal, and it was iron, and it was magnetic. And then you could, write the names of all the characters and everything like that. And then you arrange them down the initiative tracker. And then we would take time before every fight in order to establish the initiative order, and then put together this very nice tree that tells you in what order you're going to go in. But we could have just gone around the table. So I either want to kind of abolish it, or other people use like popcorn initiative. So there are other systems, but I either want it to be simple, or I want to go complex. I've talked about Hackmaster. Hackmaster has one of the best combat systems. If you're just simulating a combat, the game is here. Let's play this game of combat. It's got a great initiative system, because things like casting spells actually take time. Swinging swords actually takes time. It's a real-time system. I want to talk about that more, and I'd like to do like a combat test as well. Climbing and diving, evasion and pursuit. Basic attack bonus. Normal men. A note about normal men. All right. The normal men entry in the table above is for normal men, also known as 0 level characters. I like 0 level. The characters represent the artisans, shopkeepers, scullery maids, and other non-adventurer characters who appear in the game. All such characters are NPCs, of course. Where is our normal men? Fighter level. Attack bonus. Well, we'll probably see it here. Damage. If an attack hits, the attacker rolls damage as given for the weapon. Melee attacks apply the strength bonus or penalty to the damage dice, as do thrown missile weapons such as daggers or spears. Usually, attacks with bows and crossbows do not gain a strength bonus, but sling bullets and stones do. A character reduced to 0 hit points is dead. That's easy. That's very easy. Subduing damage. Brawling. Brawling is another one of these things probably that's got very specific rules. Sometimes a character will be attacking without a weapon, striking with fist or foot. This is called brawling. Normal characters do 1d3 points of subduing damage with a punch, 1d4 with a kick. Kicks are rolled at -2 penalty. Okay, one thing I'm thinking of right here, when we were looking at the character sheet and we were talking about, hey, that's a very nice, short character sheet that doesn't have a whole lot on it. We like that, or I like that for this particular style of playing. The flip side of having that very short character sheet in this game is that we've got very complex rules for all of these different types of things. We've got very specific rules for how to handle a whole bunch of different situations. So even though maybe you're not referencing your character sheet a lot because the character sheet is simple, we are definitely going to be referencing the rule book quite a bit. And I want to reduce and minimize the amount of time that we are spending on the rule book. Because anytime you spend looking something up is time you're not spent playing. So yes, we've got a very simple character sheet right here, but we do have a rather complicated rule system where every little thing has its own type of die and different type of die range on there, which are not written on your character sheet. So actually, this is information that you kind of do need in quick reference form. Your character sheet would be a good place for a quick reference about, okay, how exactly do we adjudicate brawling? How do we adjudicate opening a door, or whether it's locked or whatever? I mean, if you wrote all of that on the character sheet so you could actually know how to do it, then the character sheet would be expanding. So we need to combine that simple character sheet with a simple action resolution system. Morale checks, different system. There's still something that is rather delightful about this. I think if I were going to play this and people wanted to do this type of game, I think we would do it as a dungeon crawl, but I would want the characters pre-generated. I need a dungeon with my monsters. You can probably, I got different things laying around people, and, we can get like old school adventures online, but I'd want to get into the dungeon, fight some oozes and things like that, skeletons, and it just be about a dungeon crawl. We do have monsters here. Do we get a good best? Yeah, I guess we got some monsters here to stock a monster with. The antelope. Okay. I saw a number of attacks. One butt. Oh, but it makes sense because it's the antelope. I was like, okay, wait, we got butt attack here. But yes, antelope. Got it. All right, so monsters, more monsters. So a lot of this is monsters. Oh, a lot of this is monsters. Creating an NPC party. I tell you what, let's go back to character creation now. We've kind of looked at how to play. So let's go back to character creation just a bit to see how we get these things. I saw a whole bunch of tables. So a lot of it's probably just pulling things off of tables. So, of course, we've got pick your race. Let's say I want to be an elf. Kind of what does it do for me? Restrictions. Elves may become clerics, fighters, magic users, or thieves. They are allowed to combine the classes of fighter and magic user, and of magic user and thief. See combination classes below. They are required to have a minimum intelligence of 9. Due to their generally delicate nature, they may not have a constitution higher than 17. Also kind of old school because we always argued that the limit should be on strength, not constitution. But whatever. Traditionally, in old school gaming, it's constitution. And elves never roll larger than 6-sided dice for hit points. They get dark vision. Elves are immune to the paralyzing attacks of ghouls. This is, again, just stuff to remember. Also, they are less likely to be surprised in combat, reducing the chance of surprise to 1 in D6. Elves are observant, and they have a 1 in D6 chances to find secret doors with even a cursory look. I have that. I have the problem with finding secret doors like this as well, because it makes it very difficult to create a secret door as a game master that you need to find. Now, on the other hand, you say, well, then you can't make it a secret door that you need to find because, if you rolled your 1d6 chance and nobody finds it, well, nobody found that secret door. And isn't that realistic? Isn't that just life? There was a secret door here. It was not discovered. Whereas it probably makes more sense to have some type of difficulty level for any particular secret door because some secret doors may be better or worse concealed. And you can spend a lot more time searching or a lot less time searching, to find a secret door. And then here's your saving throw. So we get saving throw adjustments as well. then what do? I pick a character class. Makes sense. The character class have the level, hit dice, and number of spells. Fighter just has experience points and hit dice. Magic user, thief. Thief abilities. See, this is yet a different kind of way to resolve removing traps, picking locks, moving silently. Reminds me of D&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Cost of weapons and equipment. This can take a while. You probably get, how much gold do you get? First level characters generally begin the game with 3d6 times 10 gold pieces. Again, very old school. Roll for your money and then buy everything individually. I'm a big fan of equipment packs. Move people through this and get people playing. Explanation of equipment, vehicles. Okay. So that is pretty basic, but this makes sense because this is the Basic Fantasy Role-Playing Game. Let's see if anybody have any kind of comment here. We're coming up. We got about 9 minutes left. There is something about it that makes me want to play. And I think that was the exact same type of response that I had when I read this or looked at it last time, which was several years ago. Haven't ever gotten to play, but could be one of these things. And I would also probably want to do this in the Theater of the Mind format. What's called Theater of the Mind. So that could mean that it would be a good one to play on a stream or something, just for a classic old school adventure using, these type of rules, and not have to try to track, things square by square. Matt says, hey, Matt, I feel like if it's a door that needs to be opened to complete the quest, changing it from a secret door or a puzzle door or a key door. Yeah, I agree. If you've got to find it, if you've got to open it, then a key is obviously a really good one to use, because then obviously they know it's locked. It's there. Of course, we've got the rules for breaking it open. So many people will just try to break it open. But it does make it obvious that a key is required. And if it's a cool looking key and they discover that first, then maybe they've discovered that first. They know this is going to go to a cool door. And then, yeah, I've got to get through that door. Getting through that door is an important part of the adventure. Puzzles. I don't really use a lot of puzzles in like games that I have run. One of the big puzzles, I think the Sword of the Dales. There is a puzzle in Sword of the Dales that we played through several times, which was part of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I think there was a puzzle in one of those dungeons that had to do with the kinds of magic. It was a puzzle about different types of magic. And you solved it by, I think, moving around different pots or something like that on the floor. Anyone ever play Sword of the Dales? To me, that was a very classic adventure. Played it a lot. I think people are divided on puzzles, are they not? Some people really like having them and actually having the players try to solve a puzzle. Other people are like, well, now, wait a minute. My in-universe, like in that case, it had something to do with the types of magic, but it wasn't even clear that it was the types of magic. You were just looking at symbols and things like that. Maybe I don't recognize those symbols, but the wizard would. And maybe it would have been really easy for an in-universe wizard to solve. But, if you don't have a wizard there, having characters try to solve the puzzle can be difficult. But other people really like it. I just haven't used those. I haven't used puzzles quite a bit in the games that I've been running. What else? What game was I playing where there was a puzzle that you had to hand to the players? I think it was Mansions of Madness. That might actually be the best way to have done puzzles that I have seen lately. Of course, that game has the app. So those are puzzles that need to be solved with an app. Mansions of Madness has puzzles, right? Sometimes you're trying to do something and you have a puzzle, and then you actually hand your iPad or whatever to the characters. Of course, the app is your game master. Although sometimes we have played where somebody is actually just running the app and it's the dedicated game master. The iPad is sent to the players, and then you try to solve the puzzle. And I think that works. I think that works rather well because they're generally things that are rather light. They're not impossible to solve. And then isn't it like how much time it takes you to solve? Of course, whether or not you can solve it is an issue, and then how much time it takes to solve it. It's been a while since I played that. I really like Mansions of Madness. But I think that was a great way to integrate puzzles into games. Let's see here. Well, of course, I suppose on the subject of secret doors, you could always just fudge the roll. If it's something you definitely want them to find, then, hey, look, behind the screen, you did find it. Let's look in the table of contents and make sure there isn't some other topic we should be looking at. In our final minutes here, Game Master's information. Dealing with players, hopeless characters, acquisition of spells, save or die poison. Let's go take a look at that. Because actually a topic that I want to address here in one of these streams is death magic. GURPS. We should look at GURPS in more detail as well, because we've talked about it so much. So for people who are not familiar with GURPS, we can talk about it here. But there is a GURPS supplement specifically on death magic and how to incorporate death magic into your games. And I like that supplement. A lot of people, I think, it will be controversial because, a fireball, well, it takes down so many points of damage. So it's just like other kinds of battle. But other people, magic becomes more deadly if there is actually death magic and things that can kill you immediately. So let's take a look at save or die poison. So we have something that is that can immediately kill you. Let's see how they handle it. Poisons, as described in the encounter and monster sections, kill characters instantly. Game masters may find this makes the mortality rate of characters a bit too high. On the other hand, poisons should be scary. Here's an optional rule which makes things a bit easier without entirely removing the fear from the poison. Well, I think this heading is more about how to not have save or die poison. So it's saying that where a save or die poison is indicated, a victim may make a save versus poison or suffer 1d6 damage per round for 6 rounds, starting the round following the exposure to the poison. This is an average of 21 points of damage, but even a first-level character might survive with a combination of luck and healing magic. The game master may create poisons which vary from these figures, of course. If the negative hit points optional rule is being used, it is suggested to increase the poison duration to 10 rounds, an average of 35 points. Well, how do we actually know? Death point. Well, we got all kinds of poison here in the bestiary. I suppose like save or die poison is in equipment. I guess if there's like bottles of poison that if you drink, you die, you're going to be very conservative about what you drink. Is poison here? Well, what do you think? Is this, what do we learn out of this? I think we had some good conversations because of this. For some reason, it does make me want to try it. I think I might be more inclined to try this than try to play AD&D. If somebody said, hey, I've got a group of people, either in person or on a stream or something like that, 3 or 4 or 5 people, and we want an old school adventure, and we're just trying to play a one-shot in 2 to 3 hours, I think I might be likely to pull this out if we're trying to do this type of style of gaming. Rather than try to do Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and start from there. For some reason, I don't have a whole lot of desire, and that could change if I started reading the rules again. But like, playing in another game of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons isn't really something that is on my list. I think if I wanted to invoke that feel, and I just had 2 or 3 hours in a group of people, I might try this game. So that's where I think its use would be. What do you think? Would you try it? Have you played it? Let me know down in the comments. What's the best part of it, or what the worst part of it? If you have played it, did this make you want to pick it up? Did it make you want to try it? Did we learn anything that's important that we can apply to other games or systems that we are creating for ourselves? That's a big one right here. I don't know that I saw things to be immediately pulled out of it, but I think that the way that it's doing things generated the discussion on things like inventory, resources, resource management, and things like that that are very relevant to the kinds of things that I want to go forward and do in the future. Which one of the things I'll be doing, I think, right away. I found that if I go and I write in an RPG book right after these streams, this is when my mind is in that kind of zone. So I'm going to go try to work through some of the RPGs. But there's a lot of work to do on a lot of different things. We got Ritual coming up, more work to do there, RPGs, stories. So I got to be productive. So hopefully I will come back tomorrow with a big report on lots of productivity and lots of stuff getting done. And I hope it's the same with you as well. Go out today. It's Saturday. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. Also be productive. So later, everybody.